Thank you all for joining Tech Talk today. I'm the producer, Lance Hart. Today, we'll be talking about maximizing workplace efficiency, the power of embedded AI in the digital workplace solutions. And with me, I have, as always, Justin Rice, Chief Solution Architect, and John Lloyd, Global Solutions Architect. Guys, let's jump right in.
Yeah, thanks, Lance. John, as always, thanks for joining today. Like Lance said, we're going to talk about really the hot topic of the year, probably.
The buzzwords. I was hoping Lance could get more buzzwords into that intro. AI. All right.
We can make some more. I'm sure we're going to cover a few over the next half hour or so. But today we're going to talk about AI in the digital workplace. The digital workplace, obviously, is really the common nomenclature that we all use today for how we operate in our day-to-day activities, right? The tools, the platforms we use to conduct our jobs, to communicate with our coworkers via whatever collaboration tool exists. The digital workplace is the new office that we go to, effectively. And then we're going to talk through AI a little bit. So let's kind of start there. You know, I know you've seen a lot of the trade rags about the rise of AI in the digital workplace. Like, what are you seeing in the market today?
So I think, like, for those in the audience tuning in, like, framing that up, we're talking about AI in the digital workplace. There's AI everywhere, and robots are taking our jobs, and they're self-learning machines, and OpenAI fired their CEO. That's not what we're talking about, right? We can have those kind of conversations another day. We're talking about how organizations that we work with in the modern workspace, right? So collaboration, voice, meetings, chat, physical spaces are using AI to create a better employee and customer experience.
Yep.
For me, where I start with this is really the concept of efficiency and giving back time. I think AI, one of the greatest things it does is kind of make salespeople better, right? What do you want after a sales call? Concise recap.
Yep. Follow up. Next steps. Identify who owns the next step. Do you ever get the email like after, whether, you know, in our case, we're maybe supporting our salespeople, or maybe an OEM, we're on a call where their salespeople are selling us something, and you get that ambiguous follow-up email, and it's like, hey, thank you. Next steps. We're going to do this. Somebody's going to do that. And it's not assigned, right? And so that's, to me, the first thing is the efficiency of transcripting, of notation, of auto follow-up, of auto summary. A lot of this stuff I'm talking about is more Copilot when I say AI, the Microsoft platform. But to me, it is making our employees a lot more efficient because it's taking those tasks, one, they don't have to do, or two, it's making them better because some of them don't do those tasks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think you're right. You know, I like to think of kind of the journey of the meeting over the last number of years, right? Like, if we're on a virtual meeting, and let's talk, you know, Microsoft Teams or WebEx, a virtual meeting of the past, whenever they launched like recording services, and that was a bolt-on service, you're like, okay, awesome. Now I can go back, I can watch these recordings. Then they launched transcription services. Go back and read the transcription. But did you ever do that? I never actually
Did you watch the video? Did you watch the recording when somebody sends you, hey, sorry you missed the meeting?
In most
cases. Here's a 45-minute.
Yeah, no. So, you know, the rise of AI, to your point of like productivity efficiency, certainly is there in the meeting space. You know, the ability to go through now and summarize the meeting, like you said, to send follow-ups, but even do things like sentiment analysis. Hey, who left this meeting upset and what were they upset about? Great. Or looking at who your top talkers were or who wasn't talking, right? Going through and say, man, John, you know what? You didn't talk much. Are you okay with the outcome of that meeting? So it even helps you manage, you know, the sentiment of whatever the topic of the day is.
There's a great book. This was in the before times, before COVID, when we used to, back then people used to come in and walk to the office uphill both ways.
Yeah.
But there's a great book, and I can't remember the author, which is terrible, and it's probably even illegal for me to say, but let's use AI. Somebody Google this. But it's called We Have to Stop Meeting Like This. And it was this whole book about running more efficient meetings. And it was anything from starting a meeting 5 minutes, ending a meeting 5 minutes early for somebody to be able to get there to the next one. But it talked about at Boeing, and they had a policy that if you were in a meeting and you felt you didn't need to be there, you could get up and walk out. Mm-hmm. No questions asked. And it was really derived, and I think about it in our everyday, how many meetings do you sit in where you're a fly on the wall and you're there in case, and you're there
to be updated. That's not great use of time, and we're pulled in a lot of directions. And so to me, being able to look at transcriptions and see, was my name brought up? Was there an action item for me? Was there something pertinent? Or to be able to search it. Because I'm not going to watch the 45-minute video for you. Hey, some really good stuff in here. All right. Yep. About what? So if I can now all of a sudden start to search a transcript, not only just for my name, but for certain things. Maybe I'm responsible in the IT world. I'm the network guy. So I'm responsible for networking. I'm going to search for words in the transcript around networking. That's a much better use of my time than sitting in a 2-hour meeting where maybe 5 minutes is pertinent to me.
Yeah, or using generative AI to say, hey, give me give me the top talking points from John in that meeting, because I know John was the important speaker of that meeting. Give me his top talking points.
And I think where you're going to see this go, and you probably have a question of this, so I'm sorry if I'm jumping the gun.
Oh, you're good.
The idea of, call it enterprise search as a service, the next kind of wave where I see businesses are going to start to use this a lot more in modern workspace. We're talking about a very specific finite thing. You missed the meeting. Here's a transcript of the meeting, or here's the follow-ups from the meeting. What the next phase is going to really start to become is, I don't remember what it was. Justin and I were talking about, I don't remember who the customer was we were talking to, or I don't remember what day of the week it was, and being able to search across your transcript history, your meeting history, your chat history, without needing to know the subject of the meeting or the day of the meeting. All you'll need to know was, Justin and I were talking about private 5G, and you'll be able to go in and search private 5G, Justin Rice, and boom, right to that part of the transcript or part of the meeting. And I think that is wildly, think about how we kind of do that today in our email, right? You go into Outlook and you search a person and some keywords, and does it have an attachment or not? Being able to do that for real life collaboration and conversation is going to be critical.
Yeah, I think you're right. I do think that's going to be a next step in where this is going to go. And I think it goes further than that. I think it's really this kind of generative interface where you say, John and I talked about 5G over the last 5 months. I need you to put together an elevator pitch and 5 bullet points on our 5G discussions over the last 5 months and create content from prior interaction. And that's where this is really going to go. I think, and we're going to change topics a little bit, but data governance really comes into play here. And I think, for companies like us who can go in and do an AI readiness assessment, or really talk with our clients about how ready are you for this AI revolution, the data governance is going to be incredibly important, because now your user persona having access to this whole world of information becomes incredibly important, and also incredibly risky for the organization. The second that John Lloyd can accidentally run into everybody's salaries or whatever important data point is out there, that's a risk. So I think we're going to see data governance with AI, and I think we're going to see readiness around AI be a really large trend throughout this year and next.
The data governance is a double-edged sword. So first off, there's 2 sides of data governance. The first is what's internal and what's external. We here internally, we at CBTS have built some LLMs for large language machine formatting, right? Basically really advanced search engines. We do that privately. It's a private GPT. There's things that are, call it our intranet, right? It's the next phase. Every company has an intranet or a SharePoint site. It is a more friendly, searchable. That's the new horizon, right? So how do we keep that internally? So that's the first aspect. Then the second is, firewalls internally, to your point, to not be able to get to other people's HR data or personal data.
Yep.
2 wildly different concerns. However, here's the double-edged sword to that. AI is only as smart today, right? Terminator tomorrow will be different. But today it's only as smart as the info that we feed it. Yeah. And so how useful is your AI in your organization if people need to, has this been fed? Who can control who feeds that? So who's the authority? Who's the one that is verifying? I used that analogy when I was talking to a customer about this the other day. Like when you used to, back in the day, you'd write a research paper and you had to go to the library and you'd go for books. Then search engines came out, and it was kind of like, you could quickly find out which ones, but you still had to go get the books and read them. And then Wikipedia came out, and everyone's like, well, you can't use Wikipedia as a trusted source because it's crap. Yeah. And now some colleges you do use Wikipedia as a trusted source. It's that same evolution. Garbage in, garbage out. Who's controlling what goes in? So you want to restrict that for data governance. What's getting loaded in? Is it factual? Is it credible? Inspect what you expect. But now what is that log jam of, in our case, 2,300 employees that are going to our private GPT for information, and there's one or two people that control that flow of data that is being bombarded with, can you upload that? Do you have this? What's the latest? How do you part of governance, how often do you refresh your data?
Yeah.
Data can become stale. And again, if we're blindly trusting what AI is telling us, we got a problem.
It sounds like, I think you and I are likely on the same page in the whole, oh my gosh, AI is going to take all of our jobs. It's really, AI is going to help me do my job more efficiently and better and allow me to be more productive and have a bigger impact to the organization. What you just said also tells me there's a lot of work out there that's going to come around around managing data that can be consumed with AI. Like that's a whole other world of career pathing for folks, it sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, there are certain job functions. I don't want to even say jobs that would be replaced with AI. Although, I mean, Google has come out and said, I think 30,000 jobs they were looking to replace with AI. But it's not people, it's functions. So think about a business analyst, right? One of the biggest functions around AI, and we're getting a little bit outside of the digital or modern workplace, but data correlation, data laking, being able to take data, forecast projections accurately, make sense of complex data, especially when you think about how marketing could use that sort of stuff. So some of these like business analyst roles that maybe took you weeks to ingest, comb through data, make thoughts about it, present those in a format that was digestible by the rest of the business can now be done in seconds by AI. However, that doesn't mean, to your point, that there isn't somebody to analyze the data that's going into the AI engines and more financial roles to validate that data. And also, every company looks at finances different and uses, maybe the GAAP principles as a foundation, but then are you OpEx or CapEx, and when's your financial? So I don't get worried about AI is going to replace jobs. I think AI is going to change job functions.
That's right.
And it's going to do things quicker and more accurately and at a lower cost than humans can. That doesn't mean that there aren't other functions it creates that require humans.
Yeah, I just think the job market will look differently.
That's right.
In 5 years, 10 years from now. So bring it back to the digital workplace, because you mentioned something really interesting about kind of content creation. A lot of, when I think of digital workplace, working in a tech company that focuses a lot around collaboration, I think instantly, I'm like, okay, Microsoft Teams being a critical part there, WebEx being a critical part there, but really it's further than that. It's content creation for Excel sheets, leveraging AI to help me with that, to be more efficient in that process. Same with PowerPoints. It's really how far can you take this to assist your day-to-day?
Well, I think everybody wants to, from a customer standpoint, get data quickly and easily.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably the number one thing I get. We'll have the most complex, deep technical conversation with a customer, and then as soon as we're hanging up the phone, the sales rep's hitting me up and going, "Can I get a one pager? You got a one pager about and we're talking about technology that's like evolving every day."
Yep.
And so for a sales team to be able to create a one pager around a certain technology, I used private 5G earlier, so we'll stay on that. To be able to create a one pager of what is it, what are the players in that space. So content creation absolutely is a huge benefit that takes some of the burden off of, a marketing team of 10, 15 people versus a sales force of 400. It's a big impact.
Yeah, big impact. It gives them a little bit more. I got to read out day before yesterday, around some of the AI trends. And one of the things were like self-service, customer self-service, employee self-service. And that is a big point there is, if I don't have to rely on another third party to get me something really quickly, I'll do it myself, right? Yep. And leverage AI to help me with that. Sure, they're the professionals, the marketing team or whatever, and we're going to have to get content created by them that's really impactful to the business. But if I need something quick, I don't want to burden them. If I could use a tool to help me.
Yeah, and to be fair, our marketing team watching this right now is freaking out that all of our people are going and creating their own content. But
Yeah,
it's happening.
It's absolutely happening, and it speaks more to that just governance and control around what can you do and what can't you do. You know, in preparation for this, and you and I've had a little bit of talks about this offline, I think there's a lot of people out there, a lot of companies out there saying, I do AI. And even like our OEM partners, where you read the spec sheets, you're like, okay, that's kind of a stretch. And so it really got me thinking about AI. A lot of times can get put in a digital workplace, can really be put in two buckets. You have, to your point earlier, the customer or the experience efficiency, I guess. And then the other part of that is like back-end enhancements. So I really got to thinking about this. I'm like, okay, well, and I'll use a Microsoft Teams call, for example, and they kind of broadcast this, is they will embed and are embedding AI into their code base on an active voice or video call to make changes to the quality of that call in real time using AI and telemetry data to basically rewrite streams that are happening in real time, leveraging AI to do that. So I think that's a phenomenal use case of some of the back-end processes that the blind eye, you're not going to see that, but it's really going to make the product work better.
Yeah, we're fortunate, right? Not everybody has producer Lance and a studio to, make me look good and make you be here. Seriously, we've got this great setup. We had a live session with some of our partners, I don't know, a week or two ago, and Lance was producing it for me. And I was sitting here and everybody else is at home on a camera and laptop mic. And it's wildly different, the quality of that production. Yeah. And I was thinking about it then, is we are not far away from AI leveling that playing field. Not that this won't still be amazing, right? The lighting and all that, but especially around sound, AI in sound. And I think think about when we first, call it March of 2020, we didn't have digital backgrounds and we didn't have blurry backgrounds, and some of the noise cancellation was basically to make your clicking of the keyboard go away. Now it's like you don't hear dogs barking, you don't hear the mailman ringing the doorbell for a package, and what is to come next. Like I think about what are the biggest headaches. I would love to see, and maybe this is a dangerous slope, maybe it's a setting you go and set, but when somebody is focused on the camera, staring at the camera on a video and starts talking, unmute them. Right?
Yeah.
Or if I say, "Hey Justin, good morning, how are you?" and then you start talking on camera, unmute it. You're responding to me.
Yeah.
Those are some of those enhancements of just every day making the meeting experience better. I look forward to those days when nobody says, "Sorry, muted, secret double mute." And can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Come on. AI's got to remove those phrases from a virtual meeting.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you, man. The sound thing, that's such a good point of where AI is absolutely benefiting us every single day without us realizing, because these companies are investing in it and investing in the tools to make that a better experience. Now, time check here. We've been going about 20 minutes. If you have any questions, please type them in. Lance, is going to let us know if we have any, and we're happy to answer. I'm going to try to keep this going until about 2:30. So back to the digital workplace, the interaction with digital workplace. So we've talked now about the front end, kind of efficiency experience, the back end. Like, what's the risk? Like, to me, I'm a huge proponent to make sure that people are embracing AI. Use ChatGPT, figure out how to do prompt. Google prompt engineering, figuring out the best way to write the prompts to make AI beneficial for you. And that's going to pull through when you start using things like Copilot, understanding how to write the prompts. So I'm a big proponent there. What are the other use cases or risks that you see out there today?
Yeah. So here's a use case, and I don't love it. I know it's where everything is going. I think it falls more in the micromanaging, but in today's world, sales is different, because every company could tell you down to the sales rep who's number one and who's last, right? What the cost of an employee. Not all job functions have that. And so companies are always looking for ways to measure productivity.
Yep. AI,
especially in a work from home or a work from anywhere. AI is going to help that. I don't love it. I don't think measuring, if an employee is working from home 20 hours a week and getting their job done, that's on you for not giving them more work. I don't love the micromanaging and the measuring of how active somebody was or wasn't compared to the output, but AI is certainly going to bring that. The other risk, so aside from the fact that AI will start to literally think about getting off of a call. You have a team call. You've got 5 employees on it. You basically talk for an hour. You're presenting things to them. New concepts, new ideas, new asks, whatever. And getting off and getting a scorecard. Who paid the most attention? Who had the best positive demeanor, reaction to the news? I don't love it personally, but there are job functions that will. So I think first off, that is a big part of the digital workplace in this work from anywhere, giving employers that sort of data. The other big, what I would say is be careful. There is implicit bias in AI. Like a lot of people think like the machines are taking over. People wrote the machines. People are writing that. I'll give you an example. In HR hiring software, we're seeing a lot of companies move away from AI in the initial resume. First off, if you're a company that required somebody to submit their resume, attach it, and then still fill out every single field manually, like stop. Like that was we went through that for a decade. It was so miserable. But now it's all like AI will come back and score your resume. Well, there was a lot of found behind that it was weighting what they felt was good team sports or so it ended up weighting like golf and lacrosse as a very good indicator of a potentially good employee. Except the bias in that is it was a predominantly white male, non-people of color dominated thing. And so now what you're doing is saying, hey, we're scoring golf and lacrosse, but really what's happening is you're accidentally creating an unfair, around diversity and inclusion. So a lot of that's been taken out from like the process around talent acquisition is removing that portion of it. So I would always say that, like, be careful, understand AI is generated by people, and then it does what it thinks you want it to do. And you have to constantly be, retraining it along the way.
Yeah, listen, I think, in Grace, the way to question, just so you all know, is AI currently being used for talent acquisition? So I think you answered is yes, it is, but you need to be, you need to think smartly about that talent acquisition.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the dangers of it. I equate it to, whether you have young kids or pets, all right, you're training AI. And so it's going to, you tell it what to do, you build it, you make it, you shape it, and then it starts to kind of do what it thinks that you want it to do based off of your code and how you built it and things like that, right? So careful. And the talent acquisition industry is just one of those ways that very quickly, started to become an issue of implicit bias in AI.
Yeah. I think, on the talent side of things, I think, we saw through the work from home transition over the last few years, a lot of people quiet quitting or working multiple jobs at a given time. Generative AI is making that a lot easier to do. And that's one of those things from a leadership standpoint you got to really pay attention to is kind of, you got to watch the employee productivity a little bit, which I know you hate, but it is one of those risks in certain industries that you must pay attention to.
Yeah, to me, it was, you could always tell Cliff Notes, right? Remember in school, you had to read it. You could tell who read the Cliff Notes and who read the book.
Yep.
Same concept. I see on LinkedIn content creators every day, and I think AI has made LinkedIn more of a social media platform than I would like anyway. Maybe I'm just a okay boomer. I liked it being a professional platform that it used to be. But anyway, you can tell, certain things, right? I want to be thought provoking. Right. So I want to go out and I want to tell people this thought I had about X. I put it in ChatGPT. First off, I can tell when somebody copies that and puts it in an email. It's got the box around it. It's like, at least take the steps to do paste special and remove the box. Right.
I know what you're doing because I do it.
Also, like GPT gives like the same response. Like it basically restates your question in the form of a thesis. It then bullet points out and then it summarizes. And nobody types that way. And so I think it is possible, and there's been a lot of reports of people doing multiple jobs because they're having bots do them, and you're having AI do it for. IBM used to have this back in the, I think it was in the 70s, and it was like an internal memo saying, and it said, computers can never be held accountable, and so computers will never be the manager, right? Basically saying computers can do a bunch of work, but at the end of the day, we're never going to fire a computer. So think about that, right? You're making that human decision. Humans are the ones. And so that same, I look at that. At the end of the day, AI can simplify tasks. It can automate tasks. It can produce, data. That's the world that it lives in.
I think a lot of people are using it for shortcuts that are just obvious that it has been used as a shortcut. I still want to know your thoughts. I want to know your impact, your ideas, how you're going to support me as an organization.
Yeah, I agree with you, John. And bringing that back to kind of the digital workplace topic and task efficiency, I really think throughout this year and in the next year, there's two things. Employees need to embrace AI in their day-to-day work. Once you understand how to leverage AI, and I'll pick on Microsoft Copilot for a minute. If you have Copilot in your environment and you have the opportunity to use it, use it. It's going to help you do your tasks. And on the other side of that is, if you're a leader in an organization, if you're a CIO, you have to pay attention to the readiness. Are you actually ready, and what exposure are you risking? There is a question. I'm going to read it, and John, you take a stab at it. With AI, there are lots of concerns about company data. Do you see applications of Gen AI in the digital workplace without company data? For example, AI on a sales call, is there a way to not have company data involved in that process? Same thing with contact center AI applications.
So a lot to unpack. It depends. So there's also AI that's helping anonymize data. There's AI that is helping authenticate, right? So for example, when you call a company and they're using AI in their contact center and it's using voice biometrics, right? It has a sampling of what you sound like. Now we can go down a rabbit hole of, there's also AI that's, making social engineering and phishing a bigger challenge that I don't want to get too far down the security path or the security side of it. There are a lot of functions, like you'd be surprised the amount of contact center use case that is not a specific, whether it's PCI or HIPAA or whatever, general conversation, general questions. You'd be amazed. This is a made up stat by me, but from companies I talked to, it's probably 60-70% of interactions with a contact center can be moved to a chat bot and their general Q&A sort of kind of questions. I would say this kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Be careful of what you put out as your public domain, right? So sales call, you should have stuff out in the public domain about your products and about your offerings. However, it's stuff that is, let's take an OEM. You can Google an OEM and how much our specific router costs. It's going to be a list price. It's not the price you're actually going to get from a partner, depending on their partner level and deal registration and all of these things. So it's being mindful of that, the data that's out there. In a sales call, you can use it and focus on your stuff that is static, that is marketable, that is public domain. But the same way you would publish information on the internet, that's what you would publish through your AI. Things that you wouldn't put publicly out there, make sure you don't. And there's a big challenge.
Oh, yeah. I was on a call recently, last week, with a digital watermarking company called EchoMark. Recently out of stealth mode, very interesting, but they're taking that kind of concept of sensitive company data, utilizing AI to present a digital watermark that only one person, one identity has. So even if that data gets exposed elsewhere, you kind of know where it came from. You can track the chain of custody. So I think you're going to see a lot of AI startups around security over the next, few years solving that very particular problem.
Yeah, we just saw, as we wrap up here, there was, I think it was 2 weeks ago now, a financial company out of Japan had a company call, a Teams call, and a guy went and took $25 million and wired it to a bad actor. It was a real call. Yeah. The deep fake was that good that he thought it was their CIO or CEO giving him that instruction. So AI can be used in a bad way too. I think today we were focusing more on the good ways to use it, how it can help make you more efficient. I would challenge you as we wrap up. If you're not using it today, challenge yourself to think about what are the areas. Talk to your peers, talk to your managers, talk to your employees. First off, if you're a leader and you think your employees aren't using it, you're wrong. So go find out how they're using it. And if you're an employee that's not using it, go and talk to your peer group because there's ways you can do things better.
And you'll be pleasantly surprised. Seriously, Google prompt engineering, look at prompts. A lot of Gen AI solutions out there, especially in the digital workplace. Don't just think of it as search. Think of it as task efficiency. And that's it's a mental shift, but it's incredibly intriguing.
Yeah.
All right. With that said, we are wrapping up. Lance, as always, thank you so much for being our producer today. And we'll talk to you next time. Thanks, John.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.